Namaste, all of you. Welcome to this new session. So far, we were dealing with the Pramana Vritti. Pramana Vritti means the Vritti which gives valid knowledge. Valid knowledge is again in the empirical realm. Now, here, Yoga stands out in dealing with Pramana Vritti. Being a Chitta Vijnana kind of darshana, dealing with Chitta primarily, the whole mind stuff. We should know that this Pratyaksha Anumana Agama Pramanas, that is direct perception, inference and testimonial cognition. We get, of course, no doubt about it that we can get valid knowledge, empirical valid knowledge, worldly valid knowledge. That is, in a sense, relatively valid knowledge. Because this is a philosophical system, and then the concept of jnana in Adhyatma is a totally different thing. The knowledge of worldly realm is one thing, and knowledge of so-called spiritual realm or Adhyatmic realm is totally different thing. So much so that the jnana of the worldly realm becomes ajnana in the spiritual realm. If you recall that verse from Bhagavad Gita, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam Etad Jnanam Iti Proktam Ajnanam Yadadonyatha. So only this Adhyatma Jnana is only Jnana. Is only Jnana. And rest all is Ajnanam. Yataha Ataha Anyaha Sa Ajnanam. All that is otherwise is Ajnana. Now this is a kind of precept which has enormous influence on yoga philosophy, yoga darshana. So, point is that it will give you valid knowledge, valid empirical knowledge, valid material knowledge, valid worldly knowledge. But these indriyas, and in their process of giving this pratyaksha anumana agama, it also does so many other things, which yoga cannot sideline. Pure epistemology can perhaps disregard. It only will think how the knowledge comes up. But in the science or philosophy which deals with chitta vritti primarily, it's a totally different outlook. Are you not getting pain, pleasure, delusions, some kind of experience by pratyaksha anumana agama? Of course you do get. We do get sukha, dukkha, moha. So that means they become sukha, dukkha, mohendriyas. Or the instruments which give us pratyaksha anumana agama also become instruments, sadhana for sukha, dukkha, moha. Then this pratyaksha is of again several kinds that we can ascertain. Because the sukha coming from eyes is one kind of thing, jnana coming from eyes is one kind of thing, sukha coming from ears is one kind of thing, jnana coming from ears is another kind of thing. So the five jnanendriyas, chakshu, ghrana, tvak, rasanendriya, sparshendriya, chakshurendriya, shravanendriya, Ghanendriya. So these are the five senses which give us knowledge of Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. These are all Indriya Vishayas, Aindriyik Vishayas. So therefore this is a kind of Indriya Pratyaksha. So Indriya Pratyaksha is again of five kinds, generally, that everyone can understand, but doesn't really mark that as five kinds of Indriya Pratyaksha. So we will have five kinds of Jnana, in the sense Vishaya Jnana, Vaishayika Jnana, coming from five senses. So there is Chakshush Pratyaksha, Chakshusha Pratyaksha, Shravana Pratyaksha, Ghrana Pratyaksha, Jivha Pratyaksha, and Tvak Pratyaksha. Then, so as Sukhendriya and Dukhendriya, we have five kinds of Aindriyika Sukha, which are Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, coming from five senses. So we have five kinds of Sukha which come only when there is a perception, direct perception. So through the sensory gates, while they are working as Jnanendriyas, simultaneously we get these experiences of Aindriyika Sukha, sensory pleasures, sensory sorrows, sensory delusions. So Sukha Dukkha Moha of the sensory class also comes simultaneously while the Jnanendriyas are working as Jnanendriyas. It is not that when they work as Jnanendriyas, then only we get the experience. While they are working as Jnanendriyas, we get the experience. So there are five kinds of Pratyaksha of the five senses. Then there is a Pratyaksha of the mind, Manasa Pratyaksha. Because the mind can dwell in some extra sensory world. The objects which are not sensory objects. The mind can dwell into those, and there is something called as Manasa Pratyaksha. There is something called as Bauddhika Pratyaksha. Because the Jnana will come where it is not a sensory object. Say, if you are a mathematician, you will get some knowledge. You know, mathematics is an enormous porthole for knowledge. But then it is not Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha necessarily. It is beyond. So you get knowledge which is not sensory by buddhi. You get knowledge through mind which is not sensory object, and that is Manasa Pratyaksha. So there is Aindriyika Jnana, Manasika Jnana, Bauddhika Jnana. Therefore, there are Aindriyika Vishayas, Manasa Vishayas, and Bauddhika Vishayas. So we have a lot of realm of knowledge which is coming to Buddhendriya and several for Manasendriya. So therefore there is Manasa Pratyaksha, Bauddhika Pratyaksha, and Aindriyika Pratyaksha. And these vrittis will be different. Insofar as knowledge is concerned, knowledge coming through senses is one grade of knowledge. Knowledge coming through mind is another grade of knowledge. Knowledge coming through buddhi is another grade of knowledge. Mathematics can be solved by eyes closed. Mathematics can be contemplated upon with eyes closed, ears plugged. No auditory input, no visual input. It is possible. No gustatory input and no tactile input and no olfactory input. You will get knowledge in the realm of mathematics. You don't have to smell in mathematics. You don't have to have touch in mathematics. You don't have to have the Shrotru Vishayas and Chakshur Vishayas. Yet you will have knowledge. And there are those kinds of pratyakshas. Because these are antarendriyas. So antarendriyas also have their pratyaksha. Then similarly about sukha. Do you mean to say that there is no sukha, no joy, no pleasure in solving a very terse mathematical problem? When a mathematician solves a problem, he does get joy, there is a delight. Now this is not a sensory delight. Similarly about mind. The mind can have delights which will be transcending the sensory pleasures. It's an internal instrument of sensation. So there will be kind of some manasa pratyaksha. It need not be a visual object, it will not be an auditory object, it will not be a tactile object, it will not be an olfactory object, it will not be a gustatory object. Yet mind will have pleasure, mind can have pleasure. No doubt that the mind has pleasures in all the 5 sensory pleasures. But mind has its own pleasure as well, 6th pleasure, because it's the 6th organ. Intelligence has its pleasure, which is part of the mind matter. So the sukha dukkha will be also different. There can be dukkha of the buddhendriya, when the mathematical problem is not solved, or when the mathematical problem is increasing your problems. You will not say, I am happy because my problems have increased. You will always be sad when your problems increase. Now this is an intellectual problem. So the sukha dukkha also will be different. When it is through the senses, then it is one kind. When it is through the mind, it is second kind. And through the buddhi, it is third kind. So there sukha dukkhas also will be different. Then, more importantly, yoga implies that these vrittis are also samskarendriyas. In modern epistemology, this is not at all taken into account, while that is very much there. Samskarendriyas. See how many samskars will come to us through the gates of Jnanendriya, which are 5, through the gate of Manasendriya, which is 6th, and through the gates of Buddhendriya, which is 7th. So, while we are having a cognitive act or perceptive act or cognitive act, there is also samskars engendered. So therefore the pratyaksha is also samskarendriya. 7 kinds of pratyaksha, as we just now listed, will be again 7 kinds of samskars. Vaishayika samskars, manasika samskars and bauddhika samskars. In Aindrika samskars there are again 5 classes there, subclasses. Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. Shabdik samskar, rupa samskar, rasa samskar, gandha samskar and sparsha samskar. So there are different memories. Even in memory, in the cortex of memory, we have this division. Shabda memory, sparsha memory, rupa memory, rasa memory, sparsha memory, and gandha memory. So see how the pratyaksha that we are discussing will work even in the smriti kosha and samskara kosha. So there will be 5 kinds of samskars out of 5 vishayas of the senses, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. Then there will be also samskars of experience which comes to the mind and experience that comes to buddhi, experience that comes to bhavana. Because bhavana is also indriya, because the bhavanik sukha is sensed by bhavanik organ. Emotional pleasure is experienced by emotional organ. Emotional pain is experienced by emotional organ. So there will be smriti of five senses, smriti of manasendriya, smriti of buddhendriya, smriti of bhavanendriya. Then samskars similarly. They will all engender samskar. A very pratyaksha vritti engenders some kind of samskar. Many times it goes unnoticed. We don't look at it as a samskaric input. We only look at it as jnana input. If some input comes to jnana, this is what we see. But we do not identify the input for samskaras, subliminal impressions, as it is said in English. That needs a scrutiny whether that's proper translation of the word samskar into English. So, in your pratyaksha vritti, don't you get samskars? In anumana vrittis, don't you get samskars? In agama vrittis, don't you get samskars? And yoga gives a lot of importance to samskars. Because if yoga is samadhi, the samadhi depends upon two kinds of samskars, two grades of samskars, two classes of samskars, which are called Vyuthana samskar and Nirodha samskar. Disappearance of one and appearance of the other. That is, disappearance of Vyuthana, suppression of Vyuthana, and upcoming of Nirodha is basic requirement for samadhi. If that doesn't happen, samadhi will not actualize, according to the precept of Patanjali in the 3rd chapter. So, from yoga point of view, there are two classes of samskars, Vyuthana samskars and Nirodha samskars. Again, that's a functional classification. Otherwise, there can be several classifications from different perspectives: punya samskars, papa samskars, sukha samskars, dukkha samskars, jnana samskars, ajnana samskars. So that can happen. There are so many classes of samskars. But functionally for yoga and samadhi, they all are clubbed into two classes. One is called Vyuthana samskar, which is antagonizer to samadhi, and Nirodha samskar, which is a protagonizer of samadhi. Anyway, so samskars are generated. And in pursuit of yoga, it is so important to consider samskar, samskar cortex, samskar indriya, samskar locus. And we need to do that samskar management. We need to weed out unsuitable samskars. Something has to be managed in samskar aspects. That is basically the gravity of yogic practices. So, between pratyaksha, anumana, agama, it is worthwhile considering that agama samskar has enormous potentials to engender yogic samskars. You can't be assured about that when you are having pratyaksha pramana. What is the scope to engender such samskars from pratyaksha? Indriya pratyaksha, manasa pratyaksha, bauddhika pratyaksha, bhavana pratyaksha. Then similarly anuman there. How much is the scope for engendering samskars which one who is in pursuit of yoga will be trying to gather, accumulate, amass, collect. So, one who is pursuing yoga will not try to amass Vyuthana samskars, but will try to amass, collect, stack up Nirodha samskars. So these are the gates for samskars. The gates which are going to give us knowledge, the gates which are going to give us sukha dukkha, same gates are also going to give us samskars. So therefore, how to use these gates which will propitiate yogic potentials is important consideration. So Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama are also gates for samskars. And therein, with thought or little ponderance, one will realize the Agama is enormous scope for samskars which are relished in pursuit of yoga, and which are also weeded out in pursuit of yoga. While you are pursuing yoga, you have to weed out certain samskars. Now, it's not an act that one can carry out. Like to remember something, we can do something, but to forget something, what will you do? To remember something, you will go on by hearting, you will by heart that formula, you will by heart formulae, you will by heart certain points, synoptic points. You will often read it. You will often hear it. So that's how you can create memory. So there are techniques to mnemonics, and if you are aware of that modern subject, mnemonics, the memory can be really developed. But how will you develop what you want to forget? What is the way? There is no direct way to forget something. Because the more you dislike a thing, more often it comes in presence of your mind. It's not that if you dislike something, it will not come to your mind. It will come more often. Perhaps more often than what you really have relish for. So, the point is, in Agama, when you are, say if you are looking into Puranas, Shastras, Vedas, Upanishads, Darshana Shastras, there is enormous samskar generation which is propitious to adhyatmic process or spiritual evolvement. So Agama is a great bounty, great endowment through which we can have that knowledge which will be propitious to yogic processes and samskars needed for yoga. It will engender samskars, and it will also set aside the samskars which are antagonizing. So Satsanga, Sadhana Sangha, Shastra Sangha. Shastra Sangha is taking recourse to Agamas, hearing wise words, hearing, reading, looking into, pondering over wise words or words of wisdom. That's the Agama. So the Agama has enormous potentials in yoga, in yogic epistemology. Because yoga understands that in epistemology or in knowledge process, it's not just knowledge. We also create some scars, some impressions in us which last beyond the lifespan, which can last beyond the lifespan, which can become material or matter for next incarnation or any subsequent incarnation. So they have long, kind of deeper effects, long-lasting effects. Our perceptions don't have long-lasting effects. Many of the perceptions or cognitions are even forgotten. Even during lifetime, they are forgotten. As Jnanendriya, what they do is quite short-range work. Many times we forget during the lifetime. But when it goes to samskar, it extends beyond lifetime. So they have a deeper penetration into our psyche, consciousness, mind stuff. So, see how Agama Pramana is so important insofar as the samskar aspect is concerned. And of course, the knowledge of subtle realm, higher realm will only come by Agama. I will give you a simple example because Patanjali has mentioned in the first chapter, in the Chitta Parikarma topic, Swapna Nidra Jnanalambanam Va. Swapna Jnanam, Nidra Jnanam is one of the means to make the mind chitta placid, make the mind stuff clear, clean, transparent, cosmicalized. Now, how will you get this nidra jnana or swapna jnana? You cannot have direct perception. You can't say, you can see something in dream, but you can't say that I am seeing the dream. I want to see the dream, I am seeing the dream, I was seeing my dream. You can see in dream, but you can't see your dream. So dream is not an object for you to have perception about. When there is no perception at all, then there can be no inference as well. Because the inference is based on some factors of perception. If there is nothing pratyaksha, then there is nothing, no scope for anumana to crop up. Because anumana always is based on some pratyaksha because of what we saw as linga-lingi sambandha, the relationship between the marked and the mark. So the mark is something our perception. The smoke is perception in kitchen, and therefore we know that because there is fire in the kitchen, there is smoke. And you don't see smoke on a lake, on a water body. Where do you see smoke? So that is the pratyaksha for you. Wherever there is a fire, there only you may see smoke, and not where there is no fire at all. There has to be fire for you to see the smoke. So there is some pratyaksha in anumana also. That's why the linga-lingi aspect or marked and mark aspect. The mark is a sensory object. And on that, anumana is based. So then the point is that how can you know your very sleep? You can't say I am going to keep awake and I am going to see how I sleep. Because if you are awake, you will not sleep, and if you are asleep, you are not awake, and if you are not awake, you can't have pratyaksha knowledge. Then what is nidra jnana? What is swapna jnana? You can't also say I will keep awake and see how I get dream, because if you are awake, you won't get dream. If you are getting dream, you are not awake, and if you are not awake, you will not have the anumana jnana as well. So nidra jnana, swapna jnana is not a matter for pratyaksha or anumana. However, it is only object for or subject matter of agama pramana. Agama will tell you what is really sleep. Agama will tell you what is really swapna. The Upanishads deal with it. Upanishads describe what is sleep. And if you come to know what is really sleep, then that will be chitta prasadana. That will be placidifying subject matter to the mind. It will not be disturbing. So this nidra jnana and swapna jnana, which is described in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and some other Upanishads as well, many Upanishads have dealt with it. So they will tell you and they will give you what is swapna, tell you about what is nidra. And that knowledge is one of the chitta parikarma measure according to Patanjali. Swapna nidra jnana alambanam va. Now this is only possible in an agama. You will only get to know that it is, this state can be understood by a testimonial process. You can't expect the pratyaksha to divulge it. You can't expect the inference to divulge it. So there are so many subject matters which are outside the realm of direct indirect perceptions. They are outside the realm of pratyaksha anumana pramana. And the jnana can only come, knowledge can only come, jnana can only come through agama. So it's an exceptional realm of knowledge. Now, therefore, we know how much knowledge is important in Adhyatma and spirituality, which is beyond Laukika Pratyaksha and Laukika Anumana. So, unique realm of knowledge is opened out by Agama, and then therefore unique kind of Agama will not give you much of how much of sorrow can it give you? It can give you some sukha. So see how Agama works, because usually man wants to have only pleasures in the life, delights in the life, and bare minimum sorrows or no sorrows. Then you are in heavens. So this is what is our choice. We want pleasures in life, not sorrows in life. We want pleasure in life, not pain in life. So the pratyaksha of the senses and anumana based on senses will give you both. Will give you both sukha dukkha. But when it comes to agama, see what is the scope that it will give you dukkha. Because the whole receptacle of agam pramana, such as shastras, Veda, Shastra, Upanishad, Gita, Itihas, Puran, Darshana Shastras, Dharma Shastras, they will give you sukha. And then there will be negligible or almost no dukkha coming. So if we want delight and pleasure from knowledge process, we can more depend upon agama pramana than pratyaksha pramana and anumana pramana, because they will be inflicting us with both, inflicting with the sorrow as well. They will give you pain, they will give you pleasure, they will give you pain. They will give you delight, they will give you sorrow. But this is the pramana which is quite exclusive. It will exclude how much sorrow will come by agama pramana, by matter of agama pramana. So it is again what you call as selective kind of content, that it will not give you pain, it can give you sukha, it will not give you dukkha. Or proportion of sukha will be disproportionately great than infinitesimal dukkha. So the jnana is also more sukhakaraka, sukhavardhaka, sukhatmaka, rather than dukkhatmaka. This is also worth considering, how agama pramana is really more kind of selected form of knowledge input. Then it will give you samskars. These samskars will not be available to you by means of pratyaksha and anumana. The samskars which you will get from the wisdom from time immemorial, wisdom that comes from rishis of Vedic period, rishis of Satya Yuga, rishis of Treta Yuga, the Sanak Sanandanadi of the Satya Yuga, Vasishtha, Vishwamitradi from Satya Yuga, and then rishis from Treta Yuga, rishis from Dwapar Yuga. Now you can't expect pratyaksha now. However, you can get agama. So you will know what wisdom was disseminated by Vyasa, Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, Vamadeva, and so many sages. If you read the Vanaparva of Mahabharata, you will come across so many sages, wise people, sagacious ascetics, who gave lots of wisdom to Pandavas during their 12 years of exile. And we are beneficiaries of that. That will come to us as well. When we look into Mahabharata, when we look into Vanaparva, we will get it. Ramayana time sages. Now we can't expect pratyaksha of it and therefore Anumana even. However, agama will give all that. So we can get wisdom from remote past. Now you can't have pratyaksha of remote past. What's the chance? Unless you are on time machine and you go back 5,000 years back. But otherwise, generally. Whereas Agama Pramana opens out that realm of that unique kind of delight, and perhaps delight of what you call as soul. Because we tend to differentiate between the delight of the senses, delight of the mind, and delight of the soul. That's not a word in Indian philosophy. We don't have something like soul. But however, it's a biblical term, and then all over the world people are using this pleasure of the soul. That means it's the highest kind of pleasure. So such highest kind of pleasure is possible by Agama. And therefore corresponding samskars are possible. We can get samskars of Satya Yuga even now by looking into life of Harishchandra Taramati, Satyavan Savitri, or all those episodes which are described in Puranas from the period of Satya Yuga. Of the period of Satya Yuga, we can still get wisdom out of it. We can get samskars out of it. So Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama as gates for samskars also should be considered here. Gates for Sukha Dukkha Moha should be considered here. So it doesn't justify to say that we have these 5 Jnanendriyas. They do much more than just being Jnanendriyas. They give us Sukha Dukkha Moha. Then they give us samskars. And then in a functional classification we can say they can give Vyutthana Samskar, Nirodha Samskar. So the Nirodha Samskar will come richly by Agama Pramana, much more than Pratyaksha Pramana and Anumana Pramana. How much Nirodha Samskars will you engender by Pratyaksha Anumana? I am not saying nil, but quantify it. But how much it will come through Agama? It will be disproportionately great. So in epistemology of Patanjalas, all this is considered. In modern epistemology, they don't consider anything for samskars, anything that is going to contribute for your transmigration, and which just does contribute. Your knowledge process does contribute for your transmigration. So here, the relationship between that, the knowledge, memory, knowledge and samskars, knowledge and experiences in life, they are all considered. Being a chitta vritti, the chitta itself gets sukha dukkha. Chitta itself will get jnana ajnana. And chitta itself will get Vyutthana Nirodha Samskars. Or then even other classes of samskars, which are dharma samskar, adharma samskar, punya samskar, papa samskar, sat samskar, asat samskar. The samskars also are coming by the same act of pramana vritti. It doesn't give you just valid knowledge. It gives much more than valid knowledge. It gives you some kind of mind stuff, psyche, consciousness. So when you get a lot of knowledge, empirical knowledge also, it does work on your mindset. It works on the mind character. It also shapes your mind. You don't just get knowledge. Like in tape recorder, even if you put very, very sweet voice and some nectarine discourses, sagacious discourses, the tape recorder or sound machine is not going to become wise. Camera is not going to become wise. So these machines are not going to become wise. Because the sound can be registered by a sound machine and sound can be registered by our ears. When sound is registered by our ears, it goes in all those realms. The inert machines don't say I am happy, I am sad. They only record the sound. They only record the vision. A photographic machine, camera, will only register the vision. That's all. But when it is pratyaksha of a living embodiment, living kind of species or human being, see, it goes to a greater depth. So, pramana as chitta vritti scores distinction in epistemology than what in modern epistemology it does. It only gives you knowledge. This is this, this is that. This is not that, that is not this. That's all it will give you knowledge. And your temporal knowledge, empirical knowledge, cerebral knowledge will improve. But it also will work for samskars. It will also work for your memory. It will work for your psyche, the grade of psyche. We can understand the grade of psyche of a person who is deprived of knowledge, who is not knowledgeable, who is deprived of even knowledge, and not knowledgeable, not so knowledgeable, and one who is very knowledgeable. The fabric of consciousness is different. So, pramana vritti works on fabric of consciousness. So, this is additional dimension that comes in epistemology of Patanjalas. Because they know that these vrittis are going into samskar cortex, smriti, memory cortex. And it's going to work on very fabric of consciousness. The nirodha samskars which are to be accumulated and amassed, then we know how to go about. If we have to weaken the vitthana samskars, we will know how to go about, what to do and what not to do. How to work on our ahar vihar achar vichar. How to work on satsanga rather than asatsanga. Sadhana sangha rather than some practice sangha. Shastra sangha rather than looking into any book which is going to eclipse our, not only knowledge, it's going to eclipse our samskars, spoil our samskars. So agama pramana now can be looked into from this dimension that it has enormous reach to go after noble things, finer things, subtler things, truer things. The truth will be more realized by agama than by pratyaksha. Pratyaksha doesn't have that range. You know, in telescopes you have different magnitudes. Telescopes of different magnitudes. Now, if the telescope is of a very, very lower magnitude, you can't be an astronomer. You need high magnitude telescopes to be an astronomer. So what is the reach? Even if it is pratyaksha. So pratyaksha has a limit. Yes, you can have maybe having Hubble telescope, etc., radio telescope, Hubble telescopes. Yet it will not show you it will not give you a scan view. The scan view will show something else. So astronomers don't go to scan really the celestial body. They only sight celestial body and then give the nomenclatures, describe their peripheral characteristics. That this is a blue star, this is a red star, this is a yellow star, this is a yellow dwarf, this is a white dwarf, this is a red giant, super red giant, etc., etc. In terms of temperatures, they will tell you how they are of different magnitude. And they will be able to calibrate the different stars, such as white star, blue star, red star, yellow star. These are different calibrations with respect to their temperatures. Anyway, so agama stands out in every respect. Just knowledge, just information and knowledge, see, it is enormous scope. It has enormous scope to give you even information and knowledge, or knowledge of the nature of information. See, it has enormous range. And then for samskars. So that's how the pramana vritti should be looked at. So with that, we are closing our sessions on pramana vritti, which is in epistemology of yoga, because it is a chittalogical subject. It has a different dimension altogether. Namaskar, all of you.